Hey guys, I'm Nathan from Arms and Armor. I want to show you today our Norseman Spear, and we're going to use it on some chainmail and padded armor and see how well it does. Now, this spear is a Peterson Type M Norse Spear, which means that it has this elongated diamond head. The entire head is just a little under 16 inches long. In the center of it here, it's about half an inch thick at the spine. This is a replica of a 10th century find from Norway, from the Viking period. But this kind of spear was popular for 800 years, right? You go back all the way to the 8th century, really straight up through the 16th century. We can see spears like this depicted in art, found in armories. It was an extremely effective and popular weapon. If I stand back here, I'm 5'10", so you can see that it's a considerably long spear. The shaft is made of hand-selected ash, which then we round, we mount it. It's about 1.2 inches in diameter, so it's a nice sturdy haft. So for a test today, I have this piece of linen armor. It's the same piece I had gotten from Charles Lynn a few months ago. It is 24 pieces of quilted linen, which makes it an excellent cloth armor substitute. And on top of that, I have this segment of chainmail, right? So this is riveted flat ring, 9mm ring mail. It is a modern piece of chainmail. It's reasonably good quality, and it's actually a pretty decent substitute for period mail. Now, period mail, sometimes the rings were smaller. There was occasionally hardened chainmail, but this, as a mild steel chainmail, is pretty representative of decent quality historical chainmail during the period when this spear was in use. All right, so you can see here that I have set up a heavy bag that is tied to my tatami cutting stand. Onto that bag, I have tied the cloth armor, and over that, the chainmail. This whole thing can move a bit, but is fairly sturdy. It should give an impact something like hitting a person wearing armor. In order to make sure it won't fall over, I put this cannon on the back to weight it down, because you just use what you have laying about. It should be nice and sturdy. Safety third, and in this special Viking edition, now I'm well protected. So I'm going to thrust with my body to hit this, and we'll see what it does. So that thrust I just did not break any rings. It did not penetrate through the cloth into the bag. It's that kind of a thrust would be perfectly sufficient to go through somebody who wasn't wearing armor. But I'm going to try and hit it a bit harder now and to grind the point in to see if I can actually get through those rings. Just really push and see if we can get through there. Now let's see. If I reach behind, a tiny bit of the point is through, probably about 1/4 inch penetrated through the mail. I'll give you a close-up so you can see. All right, so here's the spear. It is there, sticking in on the back side. Maybe we can see it sticking through. No, you can't see it, but it's just, a 1/4 inch sticking through. it did not actually break this ring, right? It just went through the ring. And so the only part of the spear that went through it is that little bit that was smaller than the ring. All right, so that initial thrust didn't seem super effective for killing the person in armor, but what it did do was it gave great purchase on that armor, right? It essentially tacked through the chainmail, through the 24 layers of linen, and it would have slightly stuck in to the person, but it was also really grabbing onto their mail. So thrusting, putting your body weight behind this and putting it into the mail would stop that person dead, right? If they're charging at you, whatever, it stops them and it lets you have some control with the point of the weapon, right? Then, if you can knock them down, you can really try to get through those rings, right? This is one of the things that people don't really realize about chainmail that much. You're not just easily thrusting through it, even with something optimized for thrusting like this. You have to put a lot of power and pressure behind breaking one of those rings. And often that could mean getting the person on the ground, right? Whether it's during the Viking period or, much later knightly period, and putting your point in their elbow or in their groin, right? And really just bearing down on it with a pointy weapon and slowly grinding it through the mail till you can reach their vitals. So now I have knocked this bag down onto the floor. You can see down there. So it's laying there sideways so that I can mimic it being a dead guy on the ground, or a soon-to-be dead guy, I hope, on the ground who I'm stabbing. All right, here it goes. I have my enemy on the ground, or they're somehow pinned. I'm going to try and get this point through that armor. Let's see what it did. All right, so here this is. Again, it's sticking through a bit, but not tons. If I lift the bottom here, you can see how much the point is coming through. Not a lot, right? This mail offers a lot of protection. Now, if I kept grinding that and working it, could I break a ring? Yeah, I think probably. But that particular ring is pretty solid, right? It might be that I have to choose another ring, re-stab, try to break through that to kill them. Or once I've gotten them on the ground, I can hold them like that, right? I can put my whole weight against someone, they're not moving, lift their chainmail shirt, and use my dagger to stab them underneath it. All right, so the question as usual on these tests is, what does this teach us? Well, it teaches us that chain is pretty good defense, right? It can offer a substantial amount of protection against even a weapon that's really for fighting people in chain. And this spear, it's a fearsome weapon. If you weren't wearing armor, this thing, it's extremely pointy and sharp. It'll go through you, no problem. Right? It takes about a few pounds of pressure to push this into, meat. But even with putting all of my body weight on it, essentially, it's not popping those decent rings. So what's this mean? Well, this chainmail is not 1,000-year-old chainmail, although it's a decent replica. It's a decent substitute for chain. So it's possible that historic chain maybe wouldn't have held up quite as well, although if they were really depending on it, they did a good job putting it together. It's also possible that the chain works so well that what you have to do to defeat it is essentially to catch them, wrestle them down so that you can move that protection so that you can actually thrust to a soft spot on them. It's also true that when you're wearing that chainmail and I'm pushing you with this spear, the way I was, if that was on your body, you'd probably have broken ribs, right? Where I was hitting that heavy bag with that amount of pressure right here, you're not walking away from it unscathed. Would that have killed you? Not by itself, right? But it would have injured you. And once you're injured like that, it's not hard for me to then hit you other places, right? Your face is unguarded. If I can knock you down, break your ribs, then I can attack your less armored areas of your body. So pick up a Norseman Spear because they're a heck of a deal and they are great. And tune in again for some more of these fun demonstrations. Thank you.